All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered. We are blessed to be joined by Antonio Cromartie. David, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me today. I'm super excited to talk to you. I see a potential cornerback one.
Can move very well, can play man-to-man very well.
I think that he is a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
He does things that are so amazing, and the competitor in him is just special.
I'm excited, man, and I can't wait to get there. I think it does really fit my skill set.
All right, guys, welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am Young Ari Gold, and I am joined by my friends and co-hosts, John Wade, the Guarded Texan, and Jordan, a.k.a. Texan Thoughts. How you guys feeling? You guys feeling good after that amazing debate?
Wow, I mean, dude.
God,
let's just keep moving on.
Let's just hope that we can be better. Let's just hope that we can.
Jordan's probably doing great. He's just up there with his popcorn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's just taking it in.
It's entertainment. It's great when you don't got to take it that seriously. When your livelihoods ain't really at risk. But
Jordan with the conflicted a little background. I see you. Don't worry, we're going to get into that for sure. As there's a lot to unpack. Did you get a tattoo?
Me?
Who?
Yeah. Oh, was that maybe just when you lifted it up? It was like
just the green screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay, tell me about your weekend at your girlfriend's parents' house. All right. Before we hop into everything, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Houston FB Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at I am Young Ari Gold. You can follow John at John A Wade 3 on Twitter. You can follow Jordan at Texans _ Thoughts. You can follow Patrick Storm at Patrick Storm TU, and you can follow Jair at JRL Sports TX. Make sure you guys go do that, please. This is the first stream with 1,000 subscribers, so this is cool. You guys should have some new functionalities and super chats and things of that nature if you're on the YouTube side. We might be closing it off to just straight YouTube moving forward. So Facebook, Periscope, sorry guys, but we need to consolidate the platforms to have them on one. But we'll let you guys know ahead of time. Outside of that, make sure you guys go to our awesome website built by our awesome web developer, Cody. Lots of good content on there. Lots of stuff about Earl Thomas that Jair put together a nice piece. And make sure you guys go to patreon.com and follow us at Texans Unfiltered, or patreon.com / Texans Unfiltered. If you guys want to get the instant game reactions on Sundays. This last Sunday was not very fun. Yeah. So, all right, that's it. Let's roll straight into things. Let me open up the show notes so John doesn't yell at me once we get off. Okay. Housekeeping. This is probably the most relevant conversation right now. Do we want to talk about Earl Thomas? We're gonna talk about Earl Thomas. There's a lot to talk about with Earl Thomas. So many back and forths. I don't really think anybody truly has an understanding of what happened. I was trying to do some research on the workouts that happened. It looks like those workouts actually happened yesterday, according to the NFL Transaction Wire. They did not happen today. So there's a lot of contradicting reports that are happening. So to take you guys back, Earl Thomas last night came out. Texans are interested in Earl Thomas. We're going to bring him in for a workout today. And then that didn't happen because of COVID-19, because of course the Titans messed everything up, as that's what the Titans do. They're the only team so far to have the COVID outbreaks in the manner that they did. Because of that, the NFLPA and NFL it had to put out a memo to all NFL teams telling them to be a little bit more cautious in regards to bringing in free agents and tryouts and things of that nature. Then there were reports that there was internal discussions about not wanting to bring in Earl Thomas. They didn't say why. They just said there was internal discussions that came from pancakes. And then Aaron Wilson tweeted out the workouts. And if you look to the right, you'll actually see dates. And then if you actually go to the transaction wire, you'll see dates as well. They were all dated the 28th. So none of the workouts actually happened today. And then you see that Janice McNair stepped in and basically said it's a no-go. Earl Thomas is not coming here. Jordan, where do we start? Like, where do we go? Because there's still blame that BOB is going to have to take, right? Coming off the Steelers loss, mixed in with the Earl Thomas stuff. It was very like a blue balls type of treatment. Hey, Earl Thomas is coming. Oh my God, character issues. No way. Cool. And then no wait, Earl Thomas isn't coming. Where do we go, Jordan? Where do we go?
It was a roller coaster of emotions. I didn't know what to feel. When I first heard it, I was really excited because I think Earl Thomas is still a very talented player. Watching the film, he's still a very talented player. And while it may not be the biggest need on the team, he would instantly be the best safety on the team, in my opinion. And now going through this roller coaster of will it happen, won't it happen? Like I don't know what to believe. There's so many different reports out there saying different things. I think everything has a little bit of truth to it. Yep. I think there was mutual interest on both sides. I think there was a workout schedule that wasn't all smoke. And then I think the question to me is whether the workout got canceled because of COVID or because of Janice. I believe there's some truth to both of those, but I just don't know the order of which one happened first. That's basically what we're trying to figure out here. And if it was purely COVID and if Janice is fine with it, then that's great. Then maybe we can schedule it for next week, get him in for before week 5 game. But he's definitely not going to be playing for us against the Vikings. And I don't know. I don't know if he ever will play in the Texans jersey, but I hope so.
Yeah, it's one of those things that nobody knows exactly what's going on. This is something that Pancakes has been a little bit off for the past couple of years. There's been rumors that he lost a lot of his connections once the Kubiak era ended. And granted, I shouldn't have called him Pancakes, John McClain. I mean, he's been right a lot. He's been wrong a lot. Him and John Lopez essentially pushed this idea that Janice McNair stepped in. If that happened, Bill O'Brien's got some huge issues, and he's about to be gone. Which, I mean, we'll probably get into that here eventually too. But if Janice McNair really shot it down, then that's something else. But if you look at what's going around the league, everybody got called and told to double up their COVID protocols, like to improve them. The Titans actually had a player test positive the day before the game. Then on Tuesday, they have 3 more. So this is all about COVID. Granted, doesn't mean doesn't matter. Does Earl Thomas end up on the Texans now because of it or not? Who knows? It may have created an issue where he doesn't end up signing. Like they may end up thinking it over now that there's time and it's not a panic reaction, because we know Bill O'Brien's kind of known for panic reactions. And if he was able to do a panic reaction without something like this happening, then yeah, Earl Thomas is on the team. No doubt. But maybe this does get Bill O'Brien to slow down, which is kind of a shame because, obviously this move had to come from Deshaun actually having some sort of pull because they share an agent. Deshaun's already vouched for him. He probably vouched for him to Bill O'Brien. And Thomas steps out, and he's one of the best players on our secondary the moment he's out there. Like, we could definitely use him. The only concerns about him are all character. And we're supposed to be coming from the Patriot system where you take those bad character guys every now and then, you take them at a discounted rate. And because your culture is supposed to be so strong, it doesn't matter if they have a bad character. They actually come out with a better reputation than they go in. That's what we're supposed to be doing here. And we really haven't used that. Well, I mean, maybe once, maybe.
No, not at all. I can't think of one character issue that we've actually taken on. Maybe draft-wise, there's been some things, but I've never seen a free agent that's had the character issues. And, I don't even know if they're real character issues. That's personal life stuff. Those are choices that people make. I really don't know if there's a character driven, in my opinion. Whether we believe in them or don't or should be done, that's really neither here or there. Those are other people's lives. So, the issue on the Ravens where he got kicked off, that could be taken 2 ways. It could be, look, you're blowing a coverage. I'm trying to tell you where to be. You're not listening. Like, I've been trying to tell you that all camp, blah, blah, blah. Who knows what led up to that? I don't believe it's one play. And I'm sure Earl would tell you that himself. So, in regards to Janice, I do believe that Janice stepped in. I really do. And me and Cody got into it on Slack about Janice. and John Lopez reporting it. There's a lot of people within that have covered Houston sports for a long time. One of them is John Lopez. And he doesn't say things or put things out very often, but when he does, I usually will take them. And when he says it's Janice, we're talking about a guy who's been at dinner with Janice and Bob and Cal and individual dinners. This guy he covered Houston sports for 20 years. He was there during the inaugurational season. He's covered them since then. And then when Patrick Storm basically doubled down on it, that just kind of told me a little bit more about it. Now, it's all speculation, so there's no way for us to know truly, but I do think that that's the case. Janice, maybe she's wising up, but also another part of this that I don't think is being talked about enough is it might be Easterby. It might be Easterby going behind OB, who, if you read anything about Jack Easterby, anything in Boston, the guy is a snake. He's been a snake his entire career. He's built his career on being a chaplain and a glue guy for culture and things of that nature. It's I don't know, I find it very interesting. But either way, things are not going in the direction that this Texans organization needs them to go. This isn't the week to have these fundamental breakdowns. Okay, we're 0-3. You need a player. Earl Thomas is that player. I like Eric Reed better, but there's other reasons for it. And we'll get into that later. But you still wanted Earl. You couldn't get Earl. So it's almost as if, here's the team you put together. Go out and do it, or don't. And if you don't, we're going to let you go. And I think that's the path we're headed.
What I will say is if Janice McNair has any control over the football side of this, the organization is screwed. The organization is screwed. That should never be a thing, in my opinion, that the owner can make personnel decisions like that over the head coach, over the GM. So I don't know. I don't know about the whole Easterby thing. I don't know enough about him. It's not really a door I've ever gone down, but it's
Jordan, let me ask you this, though. If you've seen what Bill O'Brien has done and you've stood by and said nothing the entire time, right? DeAndre Hopkins, Jadeveon Clowney. Do you finally get to a point to where it's enough is enough? And if that's the only time they've done it, is she really wrong in that manner?
If that's the only time that she's done it, I get it. But then we have to talk about kind of the magnitude of the moves that she's making these decisions on, right? I don't feel like us adding a potential free agent on a 1-year deal who, he has some character concerns, but what's the worst risk? He blows up in practice again. We just cut him again. I don't think he would ruin this team when this team is already on a 0-3 track. It already has a losing record. There's only to go up from here. You know what I mean? I just feel like the risk reward there for her to jump in right now, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree. It seems minimal, right? It's but at the same time, I don't know. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know, where the conversation goes, what the ladder actually is that needs to be climbed for decisions and things of that nature. If I was betting, I would say Jack Easterby shot that down because of who he is, religion-wise, things of that nature. I just don't see it. But who knows? Either way, the team did not get better today in a day that they could have gotten better. And I think ultimately as fans, that was the biggest thing. I think also the biggest part of this was the fact that we were taking a risk on a character guy that we have not done in the past. And it seems that Obi is desperate and is willing to make these type of decisions to correct a path. Now, I really don't see who I was distracted by a shitty comment. Forgive me. I just don't see how you're going to go into this and come out with nothing. And I think that's the problem that we have, really, ultimately, is the fact that we have no solution.
Yeah, so basically this move was spawned by AJ Moore having his hamstring injury, going on IR. That's what made us go back to this Earl Thomas door, right? And so we still have that problem of who's going to play the second or third safety. And so, you brought up Eric Reed. There's probably some other names. Tony Jefferson was working out for the Colts. Maybe Eric Berry's another guy. The Texans were scheduled to hold 5 more tryouts or workouts or whatever with safeties. So someone else is going to be signed. So someone else is going to be signed. They know. Sorry, you go, John.
No. And it's one of those things, they need a safety. And if you get rid of the baggage, if you just look at it from a football on the field standpoint, Earl Thomas is the best one out there.
Yep.
Now, I think that y'all are both right. It coming from John Lopez, like that's a pretty heavy hitter behind it. However, no team ends up in a good spot when their owner starts getting involved, regardless of anything. At that point, if it's coming down from the ownership to veto something, Bill O'Brien is actually on thin ice, which, me and Jordan have kind of said he should have been. And James just didn't necessarily disagree. You just didn't want to debate it because we are stuck with them. So there's no point in debating it. But this may be that first sign of the crack in the ice. And I think that we'll know more in the next couple of weeks. From a football standpoint, yeah, Thomas, would love to have him here. Drama, I would hope that you have somebody like Deshaun and JJ and whomever else in the locker room that's strong enough to keep him in line, especially him having that big personality and being a superstar. But what do I know? I mean, we're out here. What do we know? Obviously, if somebody vetoed it, then it was vetoed. Then it had to be for character issues, because it's definitely not for skill, because he would make the team better.
Yeah, it's just disappointing in a week where you need to win. You need to win really bad, about as bad as we've really ever needed one. Even on the in the 2018 season, these have looked a lot different. In the 2018 season, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going off of memory here, but I believe the Patriots game was an end of game touchdown that ended it. And then week 2, who did we play before the Giants?
The Titans.
The Titans, and that was the fake punt touchdown game. So like those 2 games weren't like these first 2 games that we've seen so far this season. We were in them. These last 2 games, really 3 games, the second half of the Steelers game, we really weren't in it. I could be wrong. You guys stop me, but I don't feel like we were in the second half at all based on the game plan and the scheme. We need something. We need a spark. And I don't know if Earl Thomas would have been the answer, but I mean, he can play, and I don't know. It's disappointing, but at the end of the day, like, what hasn't
Tony Jefferson and Eric Reed, bring both of them in.
Tony Jefferson visited with the Colts today, I believe, or yesterday.
Yeah. Like, there's other things. There's other ways around it. It didn't have to necessarily be Earl Thomas, and that did scream of desperation. Like it definitely did. But there's other players still out there. If they're that desperate, and I don't know. Again, Bill O'Brien has been shown to make panic moves. He absolutely has been shown, and that is very, very concerning. If Earl Thomas wasn't somebody they were looking at beforehand, if it was a panic move, which it might have been. It might not have been. We unfortunately don't know. But if it was, but again, we'll know in the next couple of weeks, because if it wasn't a panic move, they have somebody behind him lined up to sign, or somebody else they're interested in, a plan B. If it was a panic move, that means they're starting from scratch and they have no idea who they're going to go out and get.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the Earl Thomas stuff? Anything, Jordan? I know that I think you have some stuff that you really want to get out that you're kind of holding back on.
I guess I'll touch on 2 things. I'll touch on the football aspect of it first. Is like, obviously he's the best player available, and specifically talking about our defenses, he can be someone who can force turnovers. He still has that ability. I saw it in his film last year against the Ravens, and that's the one thing that we're missing on this defense. That's the one thing that could help the defense, but also the offense, get them more possessions, get them a shorter field. And so from like Bill O'Brien's perspective, it totally makes sense to go after Earl Thomas. And like John's been saying, like, this reeks of desperation. I said it's a Hail Mary move. And to me, this kind of like a good takeaway is that Bill O'Brien clearly is on thin ice. I think this decision to kind of forego all his morals about caring about off-field stuff, off-field issues, to forego all of that means he's under some sort of pressure, whether that's from Janice, whether that's from, what's his name?
Cal,
or Easterby. Yeah, whoever it's coming from, there is pressure somewhere. And so that is a good sign. It's a sign that Bill O'Brien is not just going to be able to have like a 500 season or a 9-7 season and remain the Texans head coach. That's what that points to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree.
I hope you're right. I really hope you're right.
I mean, I keep finding myself at this place where it's like, I don't know. I don't want to hope you're right, but I also want to hope you're right. Like, I don't want to go through the whole season being trash. Like, I don't want to go through an interim head coach where we don't make the playoffs and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, like, I also don't want to go through a season where we start off 0-3. We beat the Jags, we beat the Colts, we beat the Titans, we beat the Browns. We beat these bad teams and make the playoffs. Maybe we luck in and win a game. And then, it's rinse and repeat. It's the same thing every year. So as much as I do want O'Brien gone, and I'm there now, I still don't, like, I don't know. I really don't know how to word it, because like we watch this game to enjoy it, right? That's ultimately why we're here. We're here to enjoy the game and watch it. And I don't know. I don't really know how to feel, because ultimately, like, I can't imagine what these podcasts, like, I wasn't looking forward to doing this podcast because it's hard. It's hard when the team is so bad. We've been through this, John. It's not fun. It doesn't make the podcast fun. The podcast is more fun. The live stream is more fun when the team is winning. And we're not doing that. And we're going to go to Minnesota. And I tweeted it out earlier today. These are the type of games that Bill O'Brien, back against the wall, will drop 50 on them. And we'll win massively. And people will think, oh, he finally gets it. He understands. The play calling's changed. The schemes fit to, the skill sets of his players. And then, the next week, we go back to the same stuff that we've seen. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at. I want him gone. I don't know at what price. And I guess that's the sucky part about this, is like, are we at that point where we're ready to sacrifice a season? And I guess I'll ask you guys that. John, I'll start with you. Are you at that point now to where it's like,
at this point? Yeah, actually I am. Something you hit, somebody, I don't know who actually hit on it, but during the post game, when they said that we were tied to Bill O'Brien's system, and we haven't scored over 30 points in our last 5 games, including playoffs. That's unacceptable. That's just truly unacceptable, especially because we have the most expensive team in football. The Texans aren't paying that entire contract, but right now we are the New York. I don't know what we decided on cursing or not, but right now we are the New York motherfucking Yankees. That is our payroll right now. We are spending out the wazoo for this crap. And a lot of it is just lack of creativity, and a lot of it is details. You let go of Bill O'Brien. That sends an accountability message. All of a sudden, you are no longer protected by your coach, because every coach wants their guys. If you are the offensive coordinator, that I don't even want to name him right now, because he doesn't, like, I want to be that petty, but Tim Kelly is no longer beholden to Bill O'Brien. He can go out there and do whatever he wants to do. And maybe they bring back some of the scheme. Maybe they are more playing for their jobs. Maybe they're going out there and they're looser and they are trying to do something different, because the same old is going to turn us at very best case into the Bengals. That's where we're at. Do we want to be the Marvin Lewis Bengals? It's been repeated ad hominem or ad infinitum on Twitter. And I don't know who to credit for it, because it's not an original thought. It's just something that I've read 60 times, and it's hitting hard. I don't want to be the Bengals. I don't want to make the playoffs every year and suck. Like, we're tired of it. Like, we really are. It is so much more fun to win. It is so much more, and it's almost fun when we were losing and we had hope, when we were focusing on the prospects and the guys that would turn into something. Well, right now, this is it. This is Blossom. This is Watson year 3. This is where he's supposed to be peak. I know it's year 4, but whatever. It's really 3 because of injuries. But this is where he's supposed to be peaking. This is where you got your Jordan Akins. This is where you've got all these receivers. We have spent more on our offensive line than any other team in the NFL. And none of these guys are actually performing that badly individually. They're not performing as a team. And that is a reflection of the coach. If you look at us winning or us losing right now, it's because we are making small mistakes over and over and over and over again. It's little death by 1,000 paper cut mistakes that are always the result of coaching. This is not executional ability. This is players not knowing where they're supposed to be. And that is a reflection of coaches if you don't know where you're supposed to be.
Jordan?
They are stronger, they are faster, and they're still losing. That's coaching.
Yeah, so I'll say I always hate the prospects of tanking and losing an entire season for a greater good. I mean, I even look back to Deshaun Watson's rookie season. When he went down, I don't think any of us cared about the rest of the season. We all knew it was over. But to me, it didn't make the L's hurt any less. It still hurt every week to go watch my team for 4 quarters, shit the bed, and be horrible for the rest of the season. It still hurt. And so what I'm saying is, like, even if we mail in this season, it's not going to make watching these games, doing these podcasts, writing these articles, making these videos hurt any less, knowing that, okay, Bill O'Brien is probably going to go. We had stuff to look forward to in Deshaun's rookie season, and I guess we have stuff to look forward to if Bill O'Brien could go, but I just hate the idea of that, and I would still rather this team try and be competitive, because if we can make it into the playoffs, that's honestly all that matters. What I'm seeing from this team is, like we've all been saying it, the talent is there. It's just little errors that we're making, and there's coaching issues. But if we can get this team to be consistent, because we've seen the flashes are great. If we can get this team to be consistent, and yes, that's a huge if. But if that can happen, we can beat any team in the NFL. I'm very confident in that. And so we get to the playoffs. You get Deshaun in the playoffs. You keep building this chemistry that, honestly, week by week, the offense is looking better. It's very gradual, but it's looking better. They're still making big mistakes. But what I really do believe is, if the offensive line, if they can get their shit together, and they did for the first half of the Steelers game, but if they can keep it out for an entire game, they can overcome majority of the bad play calling, majority of the coaching issues. And I want to see that. Go ahead, John.
I just want to throw up, I don't think that firing Bill O'Brien means you're going to tank the rest of the season. I actually think it's the opposite. That's the point that I've kind of reached. Right now it can't be any worse than where we're at. So you need somebody to come in and kick them in gear. I don't think it's necessarily going to be when Kubiak and Wade Phillips took over, where you just tank. I think it could be closer to, some of those other coaches that maybe haven't had great careers, but they kick the offense and defense into another gear for at least a little while. I mean, best case scenario, you hold the head coach accountable. It gets everybody else to start acting accountable. I, again, don't think there's enough. I think there's too much talent for it to automatically be tank mode. We're only tank mode if Deshaun goes now.
Yeah, no, what I meant by is losing games is what's going to, like, Bill O'Brien isn't getting fired after 0-4. So he's going to get fired after 0-5, 0-6. The firing isn't going to come till the end of the season. And so what I'm saying is, having a 2-14, 3-13 season, like, obviously the losses come before the firing is what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be the other way around.
So here's the main reason why I'm concerned about firing Bill O'Brien. But outside of the season being a waste, I don't know if I trust ownership to make the right decision on the next head coach, to be honest with you. I don't know how much power Jack Easterby has. I don't know if he's able to get in front of them and say, Josh McDaniels is the guy. We got to let OB go. Trust me, we're going to bring over Josh McDaniels. We're going to keep Anthony Weaver in place. Here's my plan, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I really – but that ultimately is probably my biggest fear once we let Bill O'Brien go is, sure, can the offense get better? Could little things happen here or there? Yeah, but the team could also get worse. And, like, it's one of those mindsets where it's like you obviously don't, I'd rather risk it, fire Bill O'Brien and take the risk, but I just don't feel comfortable with them making the ultimate decision. Like Eric Bieniemy, I get it. I totally see what everybody sees. Offensively, the dude is calling plays that every single wide receiver and tight end looked open last night. I mean, like, when I say open, I mean like John, like how Andre Johnson used to be open. He was just by himself. That's what that makes your job 10 times easier. But then I wonder, like, is that Bieniemy? Is that Andy Reid? How much of that is he going to be able to take? Is he able to game plan his own schemes? What happens when we're down and that doesn't work? Their personnel doesn't match our personnel. It's totally different. Can he game plan for our personnel and who we have on the roster? So ultimately, we'll end it here. But that's my biggest fear is I just don't trust that the owners are going to make the right decision to hire a replacement. I'll let you guys chime in here for 30 seconds each, and let's move on to the game. Jordan, go to you.
Yeah, so I'm with you. Obviously, the grass isn't always going to be greener on the other side. We don't know that 100% fact. Look at the Cowboys; they have this exact same thing with Jason Garrett and Bill O'Brien. And they go to Mike McCarthy, and all the talk about the offseason is tons of hype. He's going to be great. And you ask Cowboy fans right now, they're kind of on the fence about him. They're not too happy. He isn't their knight in shining armor. And so I'm with you. I don't trust the owners either. But it's a change we have to make. And the candidates that we're going to potentially look at, there's going to be, you can poke holes in all of them. None of them are going to be perfect. That's why they aren't head coaches today. My guy would be Lincoln Riley because I think he's shown the best ability to adapt to his personnel, as we were talking about. And then ideally, in a perfect world, we would keep Weaver as the DC. I really like him in that role, but head coaches are going to want their own guys, so we'll see.
John?
So I had brought this up before, and then I talked myself out of it. 538 did an article last winter, right before Marvin Lewis or right after Marvin Lewis was fired, so maybe it was 2 winters ago, that said that no head coach that has been with their team for more than 5 years has advanced to the Super Bowl. So once you've been with your team for 5 years, if you don't get to the Super Bowl, it's not going to happen. Of course, small sample size. We're only on 51 Super Bowls, 52 Super Bowls. So small sample size. I get that. And I've fallen in the trap before of small sample size. But there may be something to it. The more that I think about it, and not just the numbers, I think that after 5 years, if your system doesn't work, even if you've had success with it, other coaches have figured it out. But because you've been in your position, you feel comfortable with it and you don't change it. That's why coaches like, Andy Reid can get fired and all of a sudden go somewhere, implement a similar system, but it was a wake-up call that he had to change things up. And again, that may just be where we're at. Now, do I trust ownership to get us a new head coach? No, because everybody's wrong. But it'll be something different. And at this point, Bill O'Brien, he's not going to do it for us. And I mean, I'll put this out there. Like Bill O'Brien's not getting us to the Super Bowl. I will get a tattoo of whatever James wants me to get if Bill O'Brien takes us to the Super Bowl. And I have no tattoos. Like, this is not a small bet. Like, that's just not happening.
Here's also another concern I have, and I brought this up a year ago, or whenever Bill O'Brien was promoted to GM, is the fact that maybe they just fire him as a coach and keep him as general manager. That's concerning to me. Now that's just something that I've thought of. Right, it was a weird time the way they promoted him and things of that nature. So it all just looks a bit strange to me. On top of that, Lincoln Riley's great. I would die for Lincoln Riley. That you probably couldn't get a better hire. But is that their list, or is their list retreads of Jeff Fisher, Marvin Lewis, Hugh Jackson?
We hired Jeff Fisher. I'm going to be a Cowboys fan.
Jack Del Rio. Well, that's too much, but Jack Del Rio. Are they going to be those guys? Because and I guess that's what I think. Like, are they out of the box thinkers? Are they going to challenge themselves to think differently, to put a good product on the field, go to a younger, go to a college and grab a Lincoln Riley, grab a John Harbaugh? I'd be fine with John Harbaugh or Jim, whichever one it is. I think it's Jim. Either way, so that's really the biggest thing. All right, let's get into this game because we'll start with the positives and we'll start with the first half. The first half of this game, this team looked at how I expected them to look outside of the run game. The run game looked at how I expected it to look. I just wish it was different. But the offense was flowing. Deshaun was flowing. They were in sync. Deshaun was flowing in the first half, John. There's really no
every other drive.
He would have a
great drive, horrible drive, great drive, horrible drive. That was the pattern of the first half. Like, it was the worse the drive was, the better the next drive ended up being. And the better they ended up drive being, the next one was even worse. That was
how much of that was play calling?
He was cooking. He was cooking. Yeah.
I mean, how much of that was play calling, though? Like running, David, up the A-gap and, all these other awful play calls that happen. He only can do so much. When they gave him the opportunity to throw, he looked fine in the first half. I don't know. I mean, the offensive line, really, Jordan, for me, was the biggest thing that I took away from the first half. I felt confident in this offensive line. I was like, this is it. Okay, they're gelling. It's been time. 2 weeks of preseason's over. Titus threw TJ on the ground like I don't know, 8 times, 7 times, something like that. It was nuts. He was holding his own outside of the Akins chip, but we'll whatever, we'll let that slide. But Jordan, what did you see in the first half that made you feel good about this offense? And were you thinking that the outcome was going to be a little bit different than the games previous to this?
I was a little on the fence about the outcome of this game. I thought that it was going to be really close, but I didn't really honestly. I thought we were going to lose before this game, but anyways, good thing about the first half of the offense, like John said, it was actually very hit or miss. There's 6 drives, 3 of them we scored touchdowns, great. The other 3 and outs. And to kind of play devil's advocate, Jim's like, it wasn't even the runs. It wasn't even the play calling. It was just poor execution. I'm looking at these 3 drives. I charted them. The first drive, we had 1 run. It was for 5 yards. That's great. That ended up in a throw. The second drive that ended up in a 3 and out, no runs, but we took a sack. So it's these negative plays that are bringing us back. And the last one run, 2 yards, but we also did take a sack, and we ended up in 3rd and 14. So while I'm agreeing with you, the run calls are horrible. That's definitely an issue of the offense. But the bigger issue is when the pass protection holds up and when it doesn't, because we can't work when we're behind the chains whatsoever. Deshaun was put into way too many 3rd and longs. In the first half, they averaged 3rd and 9. That was their 3rd down average distance. In the second half, that got to 3rd and 12, which is just not manageable for any quarterback whatsoever. And so in the first half, we saw if the team didn't bite themselves in the ass, they could make plays happen. Deshaun had more trust in the offensive line. He wasn't just scrambling like he was in the Ravens game. He had trust in his guys to get open. Randall Cobb was open left and right all day long. He's really rounding in form, and they're really building a chemistry that's getting better. So there's definitely positives to take away from that. And I think one thing we did see, another thing is like the up-tempo, 5 wide. They went to that a lot in the first half, and they found a lot of success with it, especially on that last drive of the half where it was all passes. It was 5 passes or 4 passes for 75 yards. It was just a perfect drive. And so that's what we got to see more of. And I guess on the defensive side of the ball, the positives were just that we were able to hold them to field goals. That's kind of been the theme so far. Is that's all you can really ask out of this offense. Out of this defense, is hold them to field goals. Yeah, they're not an amazing offense, but those actually did some really good game planning things, I thought. And I thought the defense, they did their job in the first half.
John.
Yeah, well, first off, there's this narrative going around that Deshaun's been inaccurate. I mean, he threw for 70% completion rate on Sunday. He did it last week. He did it the week before. So he's been right around 70%. The issue is they're taking the ball out of his hands. Now, I think this is one of the things that have just has me set off at the coaching. The comments they said before the game about trying to get back even, trying to get away from all the cute stuff. Like, you need to generate that. Like, you need to have motions. And believe it or not, when they were going empty set, that was actually simplifying everything, where everything was just one-on-ones. And when it was one-on-ones, our offense cooks. Like, there's so much talent there, and that's why I'm so frustrated. There's just my expectations right now are just so much higher from the offense than what they've been. And you see it. Like, you go empty set, you throw on a 75-yard, 52-second drive that was absolutely beautifully executed. Not just called, but executed. Deshaun was standing tall in the pocket, throwing lasers, throwing them on time, throwing them so his receivers could actually run after the ball. And this starts and ends with the offensive line. When the offensive line is holding their ground, which they can when there's nothing funny going up front, because apparently their protection scheme just gets easily confused. But when they can't do that in an empty set where everybody's spread out, our offensive line dominates. And that leads to Deshaun dominating, which leads to him having all those targets that he can take advantage of, and they catch the ball and good things happen.
Yeah, I think, the empty sets, I'm glad we went to it often. You have all those weapons. It only makes sense really to run in, as often as you can empty sets. I mean, you want to give those guys the area to work, and Deshaun was hitting them all. I mean, Deshaun looked really good when we were playing in empty sets. I had somebody message me like, why is Deshaun under center as often as he is? And he definitely shouldn't be. He operates better from empty. He showed that in college. He shows it here. He showed it his rookie year. So, I would agree. The run game, I guess, if we're talking about the first half, there wasn't as many, but we'll get into it in the second half. That was the biggest issue for me, was just the running. The play calling on running is just, I literally want to rub my face up against a cheese grater as hard as I can. I honestly don't understand it. Defensively, the first half, you did what you could. Look, this is another game where the defense didn't lose us the game. The defense kept us in yet again. And when you look at, a lot of people are like, oh, they gave up 28 points. It's like, yeah, okay, they gave up 28 points, but they also, forced punts and gave the offense an opportunity. There's a lot of things that can be said about the turnovers, and that needs to happen, but those things happen in bunches. Those aren't things that just happen overnight, and they just happen. Usually something changes, and then, there's turnovers. Earl Thomas would have been an ideal fit from a turnover perspective in the secondary, but the defense is fine. Jacob Martin looked good again. I don't know if it was first or second half. I haven't watched all 22 yet, but they dropped. I saw one play where they dropped him into coverage. I don't know how many times they dropped him into coverage. I don't understand why he's being dropped into coverage.
Way too many.
Was it?
It was half the time he's out there. Okay, so here's the thing about Jacob Martin. He can be a very good player if he's put in the right position to succeed. His role needs to be as an edge rusher, and that's it. He can play some rundowns. I didn't mean to say that he can't play the run, but he can play the run. But as an edge rusher on passing downs, that's where he needs to be. He's actually rushing the QB off the edge. Don't put him in the interior anymore. Don't put him dropping back in coverage. Yeah, he can do that stuff, but that's not where he's going to be most valuable for this team. He's dropping back in coverage at least 6 times that I counted. It was insane. And that's just not how you utilize your best players. I guess they don't have anyone else that can do that role. And so that's why Weaver is forced into that. Hopefully Dylan Cole can get back and he can fill that, but that's just not how you should be using the GOAT.
Yeah, Dylan Cole played this game. Was it one snap? Yeah. So maybe they'll ease him into it. Jacob Martin saw a reduction in snaps this game compared to what we've seen in the weeks previous, I believe. I think he finished at 26% or something like that.
It was low 30s, and then the game before is like 37% or something like that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. This defense, we've said from the beginning that this defense is going to take time. I haven't heard anything about Conley being back this week. I'm assuming we'll hear about it tomorrow. I don't expect Conley to come in and be game shape, game ready. You have to wonder now with Earl out of the picture, does this mean Lonnie's going to stay at safety? But we'll get into that stuff a little bit when we talk about the next game. But overall, the first half was a better performance than what I expected based on what we saw from the team in the previous 2 games. I think we can all agree on that.
Jacob Martin was down from 36% of the snaps to 32% of the snaps.
Yeah. All right. So, first half looked good. That the way they ended the half was probably the most telling, probably gave us the most optimism going into the second half, was the way that we ended the first half, with just, hurry up offense, getting Deshaun where he needs to be and making the right throws. Second half begins and everything is abandoned. Everything that we did in the first half is gone. Bill O'Brien slapped Tim Kelly and put him in a locker and threw a mask on looking like Tim Kelly and called plays, because that's literally what it looked like to me. I don't know what the issue is with the run style, the play calling for the run game. I don't know why we continue to run between the guards and centers. I don't understand why we haven't learned from the Lamar Miller experience that when you have a fast, shifty back that is able to cut, you would not run them outside. I don't care if it's TJ Watt out there. I don't care if it's Steven Tuitt. You still have to get creative with your run plays. And the biggest issue I have is just the way that we're using David. Against the Chiefs, we did misdirections, we did counters, we did stretches. And look at what David did to the Chiefs. Now, the Pittsburgh defense is a lot better, but I don't understand why we are using David Johnson in this manner, Jordan.
Because Bill O'Brien is hard-headed, and he has to have everything his way. It's his way or no way. That's basically what it is. He has no idea how to utilize the players to their skill sets. And I think if we look at the Steelers' run game, that's really where we can find our answers to how we can improve our own run game. Because when I was looking at it, they were doing a really good job of getting James Conner to the edge. They were using pullers to create numbers advantage. They were attacking the weak side of our defenses. So you attack linebackers and safeties who aren't good at getting off blocks. They know how to set up a run scheme and use the running back to their advantage. Bill O'Brien has zero clue how to do that for his entire tenure here. The only running back that he's ever that has ever fit this scheme is Alfred Blue. And that's horrible to say because he is not a good running back by any sort of means. And so, like you said, the running game was extremely frustrating. They rely too much on just go and do your job and make your block and just try and outmuscle the person in front of you. That's not what the NFL is about. You're not going to be able to outmuscle every 300-plus pound dude in front of you. You need to put your players in schematic advantages to make it easier on them. And we never see that. And that's why David Johnson has no holes whatsoever. He's screwed. He's absolutely screwed. And the runs, we didn't even run it that much in the second half. It seemed like a lot. We ran it twice on our first drive in the second half. And then we only ran it one more time the rest of the half. But it just seemed like so much because of how horrible each run looks. He totaled 3 yards on those first 2 runs on the first drive of the second half. And then that put us in 3rd and long again, and we just couldn't convert. And so talking about the second half, like we had 4 drives compared to the 6 drives that we had in the first half. And so that was the bigger problem for me in the second half is we just didn't have the ball. Our average time of possession per drive was 2 minutes in the second half. 2 minutes, that was it. Out of our 4 drives, 3 of them were 3 and outs, and the last one was Watson's pick. We couldn't get anything going. And so it's more than just the run game. Like I've been saying, like that's an issue for sure. The play calling is an issue for sure, but it's the offensive line. That's the biggest culprit for me because we saw that at times they were good in the first half. Second half, they were horrible. They couldn't give Watson time whatsoever. And I hope that can be fixed over the season. I don't have much faith because to me and like John said as well, like it's coaching issues. And you're not going to fire Devlin halfway through the season. So I don't know. I have hope that they'll get better and figure it out because the talent's there, but it's not good chances.
John, what'd you see in the run game?
It's the same complaint I had last week. We've taken all these players that are better at pass blocking. Like we are set up from a personnel standpoint and to be a pass first team. If you look at our personnel, I understand the obsession with running power because when you run power and you run it effectively, nobody can stop you. That's why there's an obsession with it. That's why it doesn't go away. However, it is very, very hard to be bigger and stronger than every other team in the NFL. Poor David Johnson. He had 2 rushes for negative yards. That's it. 2. He was the fastest running back to the line of scrimmage in the entire NFL last week. So they're running power. He's got a quick step. He's going to the hole as quickly as he can get there, but there's no hole. He's literally running into a brick wall. He ran 3 times over left guard, 3 times over left tackle, 2 times over right guard, and 5 times over right tackle. And these were always through the guard tackle gaps or the guard center gaps. These were not outside the tackles. Not a single run except for his touchdown run, which he recognized and cut outside, was outside the tackle. You are asking that man to get killed. Then you have a running quarterback that is supposed to help open up these holes. The running quarterback is supposed to, every other running back that is paired with a running quarterback has better than career averages. We don't do that in Houston since Deshaun has taken over, other than Carlos Hyde did. So I almost take that back. Carlos Hyde did great last year. Let's not discount that. But when the defense is supposed to have to account for the quarterback and you're actually selling them on the idea that the quarterback's going to do something, it keeps the defense at home and allows the running back in the power game to work with numbers. And we're not selling that. We don't really ask Deshaun to do anything except for to run when he's in trouble. Now, granted, it's understandable because you don't want him to get killed. But if you're setting everything up to be a pass-first offense, but then you're running first, you should be taking every single advantage in the running game you can, and we're not doing that.
Yeah, I think it's unfair. It doesn't help the team. You're right. I think the biggest thing for me also when you look at it is just the fact that we don't use Deshaun at all for any designed runs. I understand that like we're supposed to keep him safe and not risk his injury, but I mean he has the ability to do it. Why not occasionally do it?
Just enough to keep the defense honest.
Right,
Like you don't have to do it that often. Just every now and then. That's it.
Yeah. Defense, I don't think the defense played terrible in the second half. In the fourth quarter, they looked gassed as they normally did. What was the time of possession in the second half? We had it like under 3 minutes.
It was average 2 minutes and 25 seconds per offensive drive for us, and they averaged 4 minutes. And I guess that doesn't sound like a difference, but when you add it up, all the drives, that's
absolutely. So then, when you just look at the team as a whole, the way the game ended, I don't know. I mean, who were your shining stars on defense? Justin Reed didn't have a good day based on the broadcast, and the only one time I watched it. PJ Hall looked. I didn't see much out of PJ Hall this game. Charles Omenihu looks like he's making a name for himself at times, but outside of that, like I really can't think of Roby. I mean, Roby just continues to be like a silent assassin that nobody really talks about. He's the only good corner on this team. Vernon Hargreaves is fucking trash and shouldn't be on the outside. He actually had one really good play. I tried to rewatch some of it today on the All-22 and then work got too busy. But I think it was in the first like 2 drives. He had a really good breakup. But Vernon Hargreaves has not been good. You have to hope that Gary Conley comes back. But John, I mean, what did you see from the defense in the sense of guys that you
We're supposed to stay positive right now.
Yeah. You can't, but you can try.
I mean, they did. Honestly, the defense again did pretty much what you expected them to do. This is one of those situations where if the offense scored more points, the defense would have allowed less points. It sounds kind of silly to say that, but our defense isn't built to win games. Like, this isn't a defense that we put together to grind it out. This was a defense that has kind of been put together to take on another offense that's going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. Hargreaves, he got picked on. AJ Moore, he got picked on quite a bit. And I will say this about Hargreaves. He would be fine as a backup. But asking him to start, not ideal. Other than that, I mean, JJ had a pretty decent game. You don't really see it in the stats. Martin actually had a decent game. He caused the Omenihu sack. PJ Hall continued to do PJ Hall things, but they really weren't getting home. I mean, it's just one of those where the defense essentially did what was asked of them. They weren't great. They weren't horrible. They don't deserve to be the number 1 ranked or the worst team in the run, or they've allowed the most rushing yards in the NFL. And I don't really put that on the defense. I kind of put that on time of possession. It's just, they did what we asked them to do. The offense couldn't keep up their end of the bargain. They talk about complimentary football, and it's another one of those situations where the one thing that we needed was a turnover, and we never got it.
Jordan, your thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, you guys covered pretty much the positives. I was just going to say Roby was really the only dude who had a good game. He's been blanketing guys left and right. But apart from him, the thing that was, I guess, the biggest talking point for the defense for me is the run defense. In weeks past, it was poor gap discipline. It was poor tackling by the linebackers. And we saw some more poor tackling by the linebackers. We saw some more poor shooting their run fits. But it was just, Weaver had no answer for the Steelers and how they were scheming up their pullers. Their pullers were killing our edge defenders all game long. It didn't matter who it was. Jacob Martin, everyone remembers the touchdown where he gets killed on that. I'm not going to ignore that. He got killed on it. But I have a bunch of other plays that show Brennan Scarlett getting killed by the exact same puller more than just that one time, and I have the exact same thing with Merck. None of those 3 outside linebackers could set the hell at the edge. None of them could. And so at that point, if Merck and Scarlett aren't better at the run defense aspect of the game than Jacob Martin is, what the hell is the point of them being on the field? There's no point. There's 0 point. Martin is more disruptive in the pass rushing game easily. No one will tell you otherwise. And if he's going to be at the same level of run defense and maybe just a slight step down, maybe if that, probably not, then I don't see the risk in at least giving him more snaps. Like for his snaps to go down this week, that was horrible.
Yeah, I would agree. Real quick on the Bradley Roby PTI, am I wrong in saying that was not PTI in any way?
Dude, that was bad. That was such a bad
I mean,
call.
I see the case for it, but man, I've seen way worse calls
You
not get
saw
called.
you saw worse on the Claypool TD reception. So I mean, it was just you can almost call it pass interference on just about every single call out there or every single play out there. Like it could be done, but he sold that flop. That it was so that was awful.
Jordan.
Yeah, Claypool just kind of ran into Roby. Roby was kind of just doing his own thing. He was literally backing off too, and he just kind of ran into him. I don't know. To me, I'm not going to complain about that call too much because we ended up holding them to 3 anyways on that drive. So it wasn't like it was a game changer. But yeah, refs are gonna pull some bullshit. That's what they do. So
that call ruined $951 for me on a parlay that I bet. So that no field goal would have helped to me a lot. But all right, so I mean that's really about it. I don't really, I don't know where else to go. We're moving on to the Vikings. Before we get into question and answers, let's talk a little bit about the matchup. Not in detail, but let's talk about, I guess, kind of the repercussions of this game and kind of what can happen. To me, I think this is the week that kind of tells all. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's either going to be one of those years where Bill O'Brien puts it together and this is the run that we begin. Or it's the year where we start off 0-4 and everything gets blown up. I really think this week is probably more important than any other week we've seen in the Bill O'Brien era. I do think that we'll know a lot more about this team and what's going to happen and the future of this team after this game. And I do think that's a favorable matchup. I think, if we can get the first half of the Texans against the Steelers, for 4 quarters, I do think we should dominate the Vikings. They do have a very, 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 very good rushing attack, obviously, with Gary Kubiak and Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins has been trash all year. The Titans struggle with them, but the Titans' defense is just god-awful. What are your thoughts on the game? I like I said, I don't want to get into matchups. I don't want to get into things of that nature. But I guess overall, just the vibe of the season and where we're at and where we're headed, John, what do you see? What do you think you'll take away from this game Sunday, if we have a game?
Yeah, that's a big if. Right now, the Vikings, they just lost by 1 point to the Titans, and we should absolutely beat them. Cousins is not expiring any sort of confidence. Dalvin Cook is who scares me. First off, if you want to see how a running back should be used, go look at Dalvin Cook's his chart from last week. And then go watch the film. Like that's how you stretch it. That's how you stretch a line. But he ran for like 180 something yards. Like maybe he's tired because he does kind of scare me. Kind of scares me a lot. But I think that we should be able to overcome it. Like the Vikings defense is not as tough as the Steelers defense. And the Vikings offense, while it's based around Cook, isn't really going to terrify you on its own. However, we do need to have this expectation that we go in and score 30 points. If we go in and score 30 points, we're going to win. If we don't score 30 points, we're going to lose. And I can pretty much say that for every single game. And this is why I was so high on the Texans coming into the season, is our offense is built to be able to do that. Like we should be able to do that. That shouldn't be an issue. And honestly, at this point, it's not even the quality of the opponent that we're going to play. It's like, can we execute on our end? Can they clean up the little things? Again, the Vikings, I mean, they're a solid team. They won't be a cakewalk, but they are a very beatable team, and we should win the game. Are we doing predictions right now as well?
I mean, you can. Yeah, go ahead. Give it to us.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we win. But I think that you're absolutely right, because if we lose, we'll actually see if something's going to happen to this team this year.
Jordan?
Yeah, I think to talk about kind of the outlook of the game, like even if we lose, we go 0-4, I don't think Bill O'Brien's being fired. I think he still kind of has the argument that, it's early in the season, we're playing good competition, whatever. I think we get to the Jags, We lose to the Jags, and if it's not even close like these games have been, if it's not close against the Jags, that's when you really see it. Obviously, obviously this game is still very important against the Vikings, but I don't think it's the final straw. I do think that Jag game would be, because that's just, how can you lose to the Jags? Like you guys have been saying, like this is a winnable game. I honestly like our matchups a lot. Won't go into depth on that because we are going long here, but prediction wise, I'm gonna say we lose. After 3 weeks of our team not showing any consistency, I don't really see that changing right now. The Vikings, their season is on the line too. They're 0-3 as well. They probably are going to play even harder than we are. And so for me, the test really here is to see if the players are going to come out and if they're going to play for Bill O'Brien, or if they're done with him as well, and if they're not going to show the heart and effort and they want him gone too. That's the biggest I'm going to look for in this game.
And that's kind of my point. In years past, we've seen that, in tough times, back up against the wall type of times for this team, the team has always come out and responded in some form or fashion. And this week, to me, is going to tell us what's going on in that locker room. If this team comes out and they're ready to go and they're playing, then you'll have a reason to be somewhat optimistic. It's still going to be an uphill battle, but with the additional playoffs, us not playing any division games yet, there's still an opportunity. Like Jordan, you put it out, I think on Sunday. Like we're still likely to make the playoffs, and that's the sad part. But going to 0-4, I don't know if we have what it takes to we're going to lose to the Packers. That Packers team is better. There's another the Patriots. They're a better team. So you're talking about, that's 6 losses, right? So it's still 10-6 though. God, that's incredible. That's just crazy that we could lose. Wow, I did not expect that. So I mean, I guess you still could come back from 0-4. But I think we'll learn more about this team and kind of where the direction we're headed. I don't think that we'll fire Bill O'Brien midseason. I don't care what happens. I think Bill O'Brien will be here no matter what. If he is fired, it'll be at the end of the season. But I still think that there's a good chance that we will win this game against the Vikings. I do. My gut wants to tell me no, but my mind telling me yeah. I do think that we beat them. But yeah, all right. There was something I wanted to get to before we got. Oh, Gary and Conley. Back. Hopefully back this week. Could be a big boost for this team. Obviously, for me personally, as I'm massively in love with Gary and Conley. But I mean, look, we've seen what Vernon does. Gary at 80% is 100% better than Vernon Hargraves. And so, tell me a little bit about, Jordan, your thoughts on potentially having Gary and Conley back. We should know tomorrow during the press conference and any other the transaction wire. But what does Gary and Conley mean if he is back, and what does this defense have? With just the addition of a starting quarterback like Gary.
Yeah, so we talked up Roby. He's kind of playing as our quarterback one. You and I are still in agreement that Conley is even a better cornerback than Roby. So you talk about adding another talent like that to the team, and that's going to be huge. It's definitely going to going forward for the rest of the season. If you have 2 lockdown quarterbacks on the inside there, that's going to be amazing. And so then the question there is who goes to play in the slot? Are you still going to have to play Vernon Hargraves in the slot? Is Eric Murray going to play there? Is Lonnie Johnson going to get moved back to corner? You put Roby in the slot? Who knows? But the thing is, good.
I think we lost Jordan. Yep. Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see who plays in the slot.
And like you said before, I don't expect Conley.
Yep, you broke up for a minute. Go ahead.
Back. All right. What was I going to say? But yeah, just like you said, I don't expect him to be 100% right when he comes back, because even like we saw in training camp when he came back off the surgery, he was not 100%. And so off this, I wouldn't expect him to get back to the level that we saw him playing out over the second half of the season for probably 2 or 3 games at least. But when that does happen, it'll be a huge boost for the defense. The only question is it too late? That's the only question.
Yeah. John?
Did you freeze?
John?
Oh,
Can you hear me, John?
oh, there we go. Sorry. It seemed like you froze for a second. So Gary and Conley will do nothing but improve the defense. Like, it's pretty simple. I don't know who they're going to move to the slot, but Jordan probably answered it better than I could. John Reed is probably going to get more snaps, I would guess, in the future, but he was the only rookie to even see the field, which is another issue we didn't really touch on. And he only saw that on special teams. But at this point, I think they may also continue to just rotate people at the slot, because it hasn't been the slot that's been the issue. It's been Hargreaves getting burned on the outside.
Yeah.
The other issue I have to bring up, the other issue is, like, right now the issue is the run defense. And so, like, yeah, Hargreaves is getting picked on a little bit, and coming back will be a marginal help there. But if we can't stop the run, if we're still putting this defense into third and shorts where they can't be blitzing like Weaver wants them, they can't be playing as aggressive, like, having Conley back will only do so much, in my opinion, and it'll boost the defense, but it's not going to be enough where, like, oh, it's going to turn our entire season around, is basically what I'm saying, until they fix run defense.
Let me ask you this, Jordan. With Conley back, if they go Roby Conley on the outside, what is your answer in the slot? Is it Eric Murray? Is it Vernon Hargreaves? Is it John Reed?
I think you go Eric Murray for now. I guess you go Eric Murray in the slot. You put Lonnie at safety. What I saw of John Reed, I didn't like. What I saw of Vernon Hargreaves last year, I didn't like him. So like him outside. I don't think those guys are very talented. I think Eric Murray, while he may not be a standout nickel guy, he'll do his job. He won't be a complete liability. And it's the best option you got.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's get the question and answers. Jordan, I know you got them all lined up. I'm sure these are all some salty, awesome questions that we get to answer here tonight, but I'm prepared for them.
All right, let's get into it. First one comes from Daniel Blake Hill. He says, could Janice, McNair, and Cal be more at fault for the roster moves than GM Bill O'Brien? James, I know you wanted me to answer this question. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I would hope not. You know, if they're at fault, then that's probably, from an organizational standpoint, probably the worst process we could be going through. So let's hope that that's not the case. I don't think so. I think they've been pretty hands off. I don't think they've really micromanaged or been a part of any roster decisions. I don't think they know football. It's been documented during the Robert McNair days that they hire football people to do the football things, and they've never really, imposed their power on anybody when it comes to decision making. So I don't believe so. I mean, at the end of the day, sure, they're ultimately responsible because they handed over the power. They hired Bill O'Brien. They went down this path. So sure, it all ends with the owner. But if we're talking specifics to them making decisions, I don't believe that they have.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. I think it would be super funny if Janice was this puppet. If she had Bill O'Brien as her puppet and was just pulling all the strings, I would love that. If that was the answer, that would be amazing. I would love that, but I don't think that's realistic. All right, moving on. Next one from our best friend, Fire Bill O'Brien. He says, thoughts on Max getting his snaps, so Max Sharping getting his snaps split with Clemente in back-to-back weeks now. And why did Bill O'Brien say in the offseason how important it was bring back all 5 offensive linemen just to do this to Max Sharping? John?
I don't know. He said something along the lines of Clemente has been practicing well, and you want to reward guys that practice well. But Sharping has a much higher ceiling. Sharping hasn't exactly played any worse than Clemente. So you stunt the growth of the guy, I guess, maybe. I don't understand the reasoning for it. I don't like the reasoning for it. But I don't agree with it. But it is what's being done, and hopefully he stops. I don't know if he would do any better than Fulton, because he has the same problem that Fulton does. They're both a little undersized to be inside. But I don't see why you switch out Sharping, who actually has a little bit more heft, and you put Clemente in for a lighter guy when you can't push the pocket or push the middle of the middle of the field when you're trying to rush the ball because we're trying to run over the guard. That's the guard we're trying to run over. Are they trying to save Sharping's legs so he can, maybe get a little bit more push on running plays? I don't know. Did we lose Jordan?
I think we lost Jordan.
Did we lose Jordan or did we lose me?
No, we lost Jordan. He'll be back here in a second once the Wi-Fi kicks back on. He had to go kick the router for a second. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because when you look at just during the Bill O'Brien era, when you look at what he's done with players on the offensive line, he tends to just want to stunt their development. It's like a project for him, something he wants to do, whether it be Martinez Rankins, Julian Davenport. There's no consistency when it comes to the way that they look at this offensive line, and you wonder why the team can't get better. And then here you are. Like, if you like Senio Calamente so much, throw him at right guard.
Well, I mean, just make him the starter. A lot of the issues we're having with the offensive line right now is they're not communicating well. So if they're switching him out in the games, that means they're switching him out in practice. He's taken away reps that Sharping could use, that the entire offensive line could use to get their continuity right. That's why we thought that they're going to be good this year. They have the talent. They've played together. We thought there was going to be continuity, and now there's not. And one of the things that you find out is because, Calamente is practicing well. Like, seriously? That's it?
Yeah, over a second-round rookie who had a stellar year last year playing next to Tunsil, I don't see why you would want to do it. And like I said, if you're going to start Senio, then start Senio at right guard. Take Fulton out, not Max Sharping, dude. Let that dude work through his stuff. Let him develop. Let him practice. Let him work through all his issues and hurdles, and let Fulton ride the bench, or swap him and Calamente out. But yeah, all right, Jordan, you're back.
Yeah, I think you guys just exactly what I was going to say. Get Fulton the hell out of here. He's been the worst dude on the offensive line, and the entire interior offensive line has been bad. But if you're going to replace anyone, it's got to be Fulton. But all right, next one from Joe Cardner. Like, this one is Cullen Gillespie a forgotten man in the offense aside from special teams? And I think we all had a lot of hope for Gillespie. They even talked him up during the offseason. And yeah, he's been injured in the beginning, but these past 2 games, he's basically not played whatsoever. And I think all the flashes we've seen him have been great, but he's not given a good chance. James, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thought. I mean, I think there are ways that you can use him in the offense. It would have been interesting to see what those dual running back sets would look like, even with Cullen Gillespie back there, right? Because you can hand it off or you can catch it. But there's definitely ways to use them, and we should be, especially if we're going to play power, right? Like, line up in I formation and then pound the rock, follow your lead blocker, instead of just leaving David out on an island all by himself and expecting him to do whatever he can with 0 running lanes. If you're going to carry a fullback on the roster, utilize the fullback. Utilize him in a way where he's supposed to be used. Let David follow his fullback. That's the point of a fullback. That's why the position was created. And we're not even going back to that. And we're talking about caveman schemes in offensive play calling, and yet for some reason they skipped that chapter in the book of caveman play calling to use the fullback. So yeah, I would agree.
I just wanted to add in on it because those 2 running back schemes, they were essentially using one of the running backs as a fullback. Now, I get it. That most defenses aren't going to look at Gillespie as a threat to run, but he has shown a little bit. He has shown the ability to catch passes. And I think that just the disrespect he would get from the defense would offset his ability, because they just wouldn't believe the ball's going to him. So yeah, he could do those. He could be used in that role effectively. He's already shown to be a very good blocker. And as much as we love Akins, they put him in the H-back slot twice, and both of those went very poorly. Whereas we know Gillespie can at least get that done. And yeah, so he did have a concussion, correct? So that was part of it. But he caught 1 pass for 6 yards this past week. He could have been used more. I think that, when they had the 2 running back and they were showing that creativity, throw Gillespie in there. I think that would have worked wonders.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I'm going to do this last one and we'll be out of here. Last one from Anthony Meyer. He says, what would you do with J.J. Watt at the end of his contract? I know James's thoughts on JJ. What about you, John?
About JJ's contract?
What would you do with him? His contract is done. I don't know the exact year that it is done, but let's say we're at the year that it's done. What do you do?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. JJ is still very, very good. He still creates the most disruption. He's still our best edge defender. He's still our best edge pass rusher. He has shown a little bit more willingness to go inside. However, he does freelance, and sometimes with defenses, you have to sacrifice star potential to get everybody to work on the same script. That's typically what happens with some of the best defensive schemes that you ever think of. It's very rare that you think of one of the top defenses being led by one of the top defensive players. They're usually working man units. That's just how defense works. But it's JJ and what he means to the city, and he is very, very good. If he stays healthy, then you're not going to get value for him. And if he gets hurt, nobody's going to trade for him if he's hurt. So it's tough. I'm actually open to the idea of moving on from him if you can get the right compensation back for him. But I don't trust this team to do that, because as soon as they start to leak that JJ's on the block, the whole world's going to melt down. And did we lose Jordan again?
Did we? Oh, he's on mute.
He's mute. Hit your mute.
Now I think we lost him. I don't know. All right. So, yeah, I would agree. I mean, with JJ, you have to think about kind of, what it's going to take to keep him. And is he worth the money that you would potentially have to put towards him to keep him? I don't think so. All right. Well, with that being said, look, tough 0-3. As much as we want to come in here and we want to paint a positive picture of this team, we really can't at this point. We've tried to do that in years past. This is a little bit different than what we've experienced. Ultimately, we want to give you guys an outlook on some of the things that we see, and compared to just the normal talking heads that just give you the same old take over and over again. It could be a get right game. Maybe it's the on the right track. I don't know if that'll be the case. I would like to believe so. But we appreciate you guys. We'll be here every week, no matter what happens, no matter what our record looks like. We'll go through the pain with you, because that's what we do. Tears and all. So make sure you guys follow us all on Twitter and Instagram at Houston FB Pod. You can follow me at I am Young Ari Gold. You can follow John at John Aidway 3. You can follow Jordan at Texans_thoughts. You can follow Patrick at Patrick Storm TU, and you can follow Jair at JRL Sports TX. Make sure that you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys to everybody who got us to 1,000 subscribers. It is not easy when you do a 90-minute podcast. The algorithms on YouTube are meant to be at a 10 to 15-minute ratio, and that's just not what we do. So thank you guys for that. Make sure you guys go to the website. Sorry, Pat. I'm so sorry to hear about what happened with your uncle. I know it was important to you. But yeah, and with that being said, you guys, make sure you guys go to our awesome website and all that good stuff. Make sure you follow Jordan on YouTube, because he does great player breakdowns. And with that being said, we'll catch you guys next week on Texans Unfiltered.